Hello, everyone. Minasan konnichiwa. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, all about Delta Airlines leadership in the sky. My name is Yoshi Domoto. I'm the Executive Director of the Japan America Society of Georgia. So thrilled to have all of you with us today. And welcome to all of those joining in, not only from Atlanta and Georgia, but all those joining in from Tokyo and Japan as well. We're so thrilled to partner with the American Chamber of Commerce of Japan, and then also the National Association of Japan America Societies as well. So, Japan and Georgia, we share very close ties. Japan is actually Georgia's #1 foreign investor. Over 600 Japanese affiliated companies operate in our state. And those companies hire about 40,000 people, and then $11 billion have been invested in our state from Japan. So a lot going on between Japan and Georgia, and certainly all of that in part is possibly due to Delta Airlines as well. So we really look forward to learning about all the updates happening with air travel these days and all the wonderful things that Delta Airlines is doing to keep it safe for all of us to travel. But at this time, we'd like to introduce Ms. Laura Younger. Laura is the Executive Director of the American Chamber of Commerce of Japan, and we're so thrilled to be partnering with the ACCJ. So Laura, yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Thank you, Yoshi, and thank you to the Japan America Society of Georgia for hosting us today. I'm delighted that the ACCJ can continue our successful partnership with the National Association of Japan America Societies on this innovative speaker series. This series seeks to bridge the geographical gap between our two countries, to share business success stories, and to build our global connection with those who share our mission to strengthen US-Japan ties and to enhance the international business environment. For 73 years, the ACCJ has focused on the development of commerce between the US and Japan. We are one of the most active and the most influential foreign business organization in Japan and have 3 chapters in Tokyo, Kansai, and Nagoya. We represent 3,000 members from over 600 companies and over 40 countries. We actively engage with the US and Japanese governments on critical advocacy issues, as well as with business leaders ranging from Fortune 500 CEOs to entrepreneurs. This is an especially critical year for the ACCJ as we hope to see an emergence from the pandemic, which will drive business opportunities. Regional events also necessitate a strong US-Japan economic and security partnership, one of the ACCJ's strategic goals. We were pleased to recently welcome a new ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, and looking forward to working with him to strengthen those ties. Thank you all for your participation. If you have an interest in finding out more about the ACCJ, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of our team members on the call today. And we welcome your ideas and topics for future series. I'd also like to thank our speakers, Victor Osumi and Athar Khan. Delta Airlines is a valuable contributor to the ACCJ as one of our corporate sustaining members, and we are fortunate to have Victor Osumi on the board of governors. I'm personally interested in this talk today, and I'm looking forward to your insights on leading in crisis and on the future of the airline industry. So with that, I'd like to now turn back over to you, Yoshi-san. Thank you.
Great, thank you again, Laura, and we really appreciate your partnership. And at this time, let's get right into the content and the main portion of our program, as I know there's a lot to cover and a lot of questions I'm sure that all of you have. I'd like to invite Ms. Nozomi Morgan, who is our moderator of today's program, also the co-chair of our programs committee and part of the Japan America Society as the board. Nozomi-san, dozo yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yoshi-san. It's such an honor to be here today, and thank you so much for everyone who are here today. So now I would love to introduce our 2 special distinguished guests. First is Victor Osumi. He is a managing director and president of Japan Delta Airlines.
Good morning. Can you see me?
Oh, yeah, there you are. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. And then our next guest is Athar Khan, the Director of International Specialty Sales from Delta Airlines.
Nozomi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you too. So Victor is joining in from Tokyo and Athar is joining in from Atlanta.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you for having. Thank you for having me. Thank you for thank you for joining. So I'm getting a little confused here, aren't I? So the questions I have tonight, and one thing I wanted to share with the audience is, if whenever you have questions, please put it in the chat box, and then we'll around 6:45 Eastern time. We will do a Q&A session. So if you would, we'll love to hear questions from you. So please put it in the chat box. Okay, so the first question is sort of also an introduction. So I'd love you to talk about yourself. So how did you get to where you are today? If you can share with us a little bit about your connection to the US and Japan, and also your Delta journey as well. So let's start with, how about Victor, if you can start us off.
Right. Thank you, Nozomi-san. And once again, thank you very much for Japan American Society Georgia, as well as ACCJ, to hosting this event. This is a great event for everyone in Japan and any part of the world. And of course, you know, Delta being a business, and our business is connecting people around the world. So this is definitely an exciting moment, exciting opportunity for us to partnership with everybody here this morning and this evening today. So thank you again, Yoshi-san and Nozomi-san and Jessica, to invite me over. Well, interestingly, I'm ex-Japanese expat kid. So I brought into US first time as my parents, or my father was assigned to US. It was more in LA area, but obviously my father was a little strict, and he sent me to a boarding school in Florida. I started my life in US more like in high school, middle school to high school. Started in 9th grader. And then I went to Florida Tech. I always wanted to become a pilot. So I went to Florida Tech Aeronautical School of Aeronautical, major in aviation and flight technology, where I got my commercial and ATP license. And I don't know what happened, but I ended up in joining US Air Force. And as a matter of fact, I was stationed in Georgia a couple of times. I don't know anybody, I'm pretty sure you do, but I was stationed in Valdosta, Georgia, which is a very small town. Everybody think it's a part of the Florida, but it's actually Georgia. So I got plaque behind me. You can't see me, but I'm in beautiful Delta One suite today. So you can't see my wall, but I do have a nice plaque of state of Georgia with the Valdosta. So I really enjoy spending some time in Georgia. And then coincidentally, while I was flying a helicopter around in Hawaii, I do fly helicopter as well. And I met a couple of gentlemen from hotel business, and they just kind of invited me over to work at the hotel. I would say maybe 3 to 5 years, but ended up in 27 years. And last job with the hotel was a wonderful company called Marriott, which I think Marriott and Delta share a lot of company culture together, which is to taking care of the employee, and the employee was take care of the guest or customer. And that would lead into customers to return to Delta. And then that will go return to investors. This is more like a cycle going around the business. But so about 3 years ago, I was invited to work for Delta Airlines, and I joined Delta back in July of 2019. And after 6 months or less, even my during orientation, this COVID-19 started. So everybody talk about the new norm, but I'm not certain what the old norm is. So everything is new norm to me, and it's been a challenging, just like everybody, challenging 2 to 3 years. But I think we learn a lot through this difficulty. So I think we can talk about more of that later. Again, I continue to love Georgia. Again, I like I said, I was in Georgia when I was in the U.S. military services. Now I'm connected with the Georgia. And of course, this morning I'm drinking coffee called Georgia. Yeah. If you can see it, this is a Coca-Cola product, and Coca-Cola is another major corporation out of Georgia. So I'm very excited to be part of this discussion this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for connecting, really sharing your connection with Georgia. We really appreciate that, and it's really interesting for for the folks who live in Japan. They don't know why it's called Georgia, and the people who are in the U.S. probably don't even know there's a coffee in a can that's called Georgia. So thank you for sharing that so much. That was wonderful. Athar, tell us about you.
Well, my background. Thank you very much for having. I'll support what Victor just said. Laura, Nozomi-san, Jessica, thank you for having us here. It's a great opportunity to speak to an audience who's interested in Japan. It's definitely the pearl in the ocean for us at Delta Airlines. So we've been connected with Japan for a long time. I had the pleasure of joining the aviation industry in 1989 with a different carrier who will remain unnamed. And I've actually worked around the world in aviation. So I'm coming to 30 plus years in this business. And I joined Delta about 11 years ago when Delta was embarking on really building a position in New York City. They recruited me out of my previous employer and brought me back to the United States and specifically to New York to work on that project with a team. So I'm thrilled to be at Delta. Timing is everything. I joined Delta. We built New York in a big way. We're going to talk more about exactly how Delta is growing and how we're building facilities for our customers. And like Victor-san said, Delta is very focused on his employees first and then customers. And simply because they know that if our employees are not satisfied and happy, how can they take care of our customers? So it's a very good philosophy from an employer perspective that I respect and enjoy implementing it as a Delta colleague. And so it's been a fun ride with Delta, and I really enjoy what we do on a daily basis. So thank you for having us here today.
Thank you, Athar. Very curious. I bet you get this question all the time, and I feel like a lot of people might want to ask this. So I'm just channeling that energy and going to ask you. Can you tell us what international specialty sales actually is?
We're just extremely special people. So international specialty sales is a unique group that sits in Delta Airlines, and essentially it's our team is very international. So almost everybody has different nationality. We've got Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and then Brazilians, Colombians. So all sorts of nationalities in our team. Indian, of course, I was born in India. And our team focuses on everything that's below Fortune 500 and specifically on SME and ethnic business. So that's really our specialization in our team. So I have a team of about 19 people scattered around the country that focus on this specialized line of business. I can tell you that not every airline focuses on this stream in this fashion. And when we speak to our customers, they appreciate the special focus that Delta puts on this line of business. All of our partners, whether it's Korean Air or Aeromexico or Virgin Atlantic or Air France KLM, they all appreciate the fact that we have such deep relationships in these communities because it helps them penetrate the United States traffic better for their brands. So it has really worked very effectively for Delta. And this is one thing I admire about Delta, just looking at the aviation landscape, is that Delta has segmented their business very effectively. And they are specialized groups that manage all the different businesses. So we really allow our people to take ownership of their business segment.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. It definitely is something that's really special to Delta. So this is a question to Victor, and I'll also ask Athar as well, but Japan is, very unique. And I'll speak for myself as a Japanese. We always think we're very special and unique, that is different from any other country and any other culture. But it's a very big global market, and it takes a really special company. And Athar, you already kind of touched upon it already. Special type of company to be successful there. And Delta has definitely proved themselves to be really successful. So what do you think is that essence, that secret sauce that makes Delta successful in Japan. And that's the question. But if you can, kind of share any kind of behind the scenes stories about Delta's journey establishing itself in Japan, or how you're doing business in Japan right now. And also possibly if you can talk about, how does Delta differentiate itself from other airlines operating in Japan?
Sure. Thank you, Nozomi-san, for asking that. First of all, I think our core value includes honesty, integrity, respect, and prevalence. And obviously, we care for our community and our customers, right? So I think for a long time, we've been here in Japan for 75 years of history operating here in Japan. This is, of course, including pre-March and Northwest Airline. But again, being part of the community is very important. So as of today, even we do have 400 people here locally. That's also full-time employee for us. And I think commitment and dedication to the market is, I believe, the success here in Japan. Again, we do tailor a lot of customer experiences here in Japan. And of course, it's not limited within Japan, but also within Delta, that our salespeople, our commercial team will share the experiences and culture to the in-flight services. So any of the Japanese people would fly with us at the Delta, they would experience, not perhaps all, but at least they feel comfortable flying Delta with their in-flight services, being educated by our commercial team here in Japan. We have recently moved our operation from Narita to Haneda, and it's been very successful for us. And some of you, and probably most of you, travel to Japan. Haneda could be preference for some of the travelers coming to Tokyo, because it's much closer to metropolitan Tokyo, the center city of Tokyo. So it only takes 20 to 30 minutes, depending on where you are, where you're going to be, but it's much closer and it's more convenient, well, particularly for the corporate business people. So obviously we listen, we act. That is one of the motto for Delta, and we see for a long time. Yes, definitely there is a need for Narita, but I think our decision is to move full operation into Narita, from Narita to Haneda. On a normal time, I said normal, we are operating 7 flights daily from Haneda. And right now, even under the COVID-19, we continued our flight operation for the 3 cities, including Atlanta. So this kind of tells you the commitment here, and I think commitment is very important here in Japan. I learned that through I came back to Japan in 1998, so it's been quite a while back here in Japan, but I really had some challenges and opportunity adjusting myself into the Japanese culture. But I think it's difficult for me to bring what good for America or US to Japan to adapt it, but I think it's better for me, like I understand both cultures, to kind of be translator or the bridge liner between US and Japan, just to kind of take good of both sides. So I think that was also culture of Delta. Rather than pushing what happens in US, I'm trying to bring what we call flight plan. Every year we have more like a annual plan called flight plan. And I like to bring that into Japan and sharing that with employee first, translating into the local language, actual local language, not in the verbiage. And then also that would translate into the customer. So I think overall commitment to the community, that means understanding the community and be part of the community, and also serve for the community is very important factor and secret of success being here in Japan. And I think it goes from administrative office in Shiba, Koen, as well as to Haneda Airport. And we do have a hangar at Narita. We have very valued and talented mechanic at the Narita Airport to handle some special project. But it's again from leadership to down the front line. I think we align with commitment to the community and commitment to the culture. That's the most important part and secret of success anywhere. And it's not just in Japan. It could be in Korea. It could be in Singapore. I think that that can be applied to anywhere in the world.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Victor, for sharing that. I really, heard loud and clear, the word commitment, dedication, really serving the community, being employee first, being part of the culture, really listening, listen, act, listen is something that I also, heard from you, and, really understanding, and with understanding comes that deep listening and responding to that. And I did not share about my own self because this is about Victor and Athar, but I myself was a former Delta employee, and I really have a lot of love and care for the company. But I also, as a former employee, I also have experienced that dedication to the culture. The reasons why I was hired into Delta at that time was because they wanted Japanese that understood both cultures to be part of the company. So from a personal experience, I really felt that as well. So thank you for that, Victor. So Athar, the same question to, sorry, Victor, did you want a comment that you want to make? Sorry.
No, I said thank you, Nozomi-san.
Oh, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Yes, Athar, so the same question to you. You see this from the other side of the ocean, other side of the Pacific. So what really do you think is the key to success? If there's any, behind the scenes stories or your experience that you can share with us.
Thank you, Nozomi. I think you stole my thunder. Listen, act, listen. So, Victor-san talked about listen, act, listen, because, what Delta doesn't do is prescribe to Japan as to how to work with Atlanta. And in fact, Atlanta listens to Tokyo to understand how we need to operate when we're working with the Japanese community. And I think that's demonstrated in the fact that even in the United States, our customers have the choice of speaking Japanese with our reservations agents, with our people in flight. Even some of our flight deck people speak Japanese. So we offer those opportunities, and we make sure that we have those options. Whether it's in food and beverage. So if you're going to Japan, you have option of the Japanese meal. Of course, we have the slippers on board our Delta One cabin. Must have those. And then the same way, all of our hospitality, it's with Georgia warmth and Japanese customs. So it's a really nice combination of the two. My own experience with Japan started with, I've lived in Asia, in Hong Kong specifically, and then Seoul, Korea. I moved from Seoul during COVID to Atlanta. So I've lived in Asia a couple of different times, and I had the pleasure of working with Victor-san and his team in my short stint in this last time. And I really enjoyed it because it's truly different. And the more we embrace that and the more we understand it and accept it, the better we can serve it. And Delta is all about being a servant to the people that you serve, right? So truly being a servant. So even in the leadership, it's the same approach and expectation that you truly are a servant leader to the people that report to you. So I've enjoyed my association with Japan and Victor-san and the team there, and I have a number of Japanese people that on my team here right in Atlanta. So I've got 4 people of Japanese heritage and background, and I really enjoy the work that I get to do with them on a daily basis.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Athar. Yes, you have a very dedicated team, a very experienced team with Japan.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So in this day of age in 2022, we cannot not talk about COVID-19. Right. So I'm going to ask you questions around that. So, COVID-19, the pandemic itself had a very big impact on the world, but also, in the airline industry for sure, including, Japan and the US. So how has Delta Japan adapted to its business to respond to the new normal. And I know, Victor, you said you joined when it was already COVID, or COVID just hit you immediately once you joined. So for you, that might be just the normal. But how did Delta Japan adapt during that time? And then what is Delta's headquarters approach to working with other markets with these kind of different cases all around the world? You have different markets that you're working with. So Victor, I'll ask you specifically about Japan, and then Athar, if you can kind of share us a little bit about Japan and the other countries as well.
Thank you, Nozomi-san. I think, let me start talking about Japan. Obviously, everybody faced the same challenges. And of course, exactly the time where we are ready to announce a big bang of moving from Narita to Haneda, which was March of 2020, that's where aviation industry was hit by COVID-19. So rather than making a big noise, we ended up doing something else. And let me put it this way. I think, yes, we faced a lot of challenges and difficulties throughout 2 to 3 years after the COVID-19, but at the same time, we start to see a lot of opportunity, particularly within the community. Again, one thing what we have done is to move our office from, in a way, luxury space of area to somewhat a bit of downtown part of Japan, which is Shibakoen, which is right next to the Tokyo Tower. That's a great, actually, view from my office now. But having said, yes, we made a lot of savings on the rent and lease, but we move into Korean Air, their own building. And as you know, Korean Air has been our partner for the last several years. And yes, we save a lot of money by moving from kind of bubbly office to Korean Air office. But at the same time, we strengthen our relationship, our partner. I said connecting people around the world and partnership is very important for Delta. But I think this gives us opportunity, new opportunity to be closer to our partner, Korean Air. And of course, we start to see a lot of opportunities, not only revenue generations, but a lot of co-joint opportunity here in Japan. For instance, when we were told by the government that we can do workplace vaccines, of course, I said we have 400 people, and 400 people initially is not enough to do the workplace vaccination, because here in Japan, the government said you have to have 1,000 people to do the workplace vaccination here in Japan. So we got very creative, just take, in a way, advantage and opportunity of doing joint vaccination process with the Korean Air, which opened up for our Sky Team partners. Again, partnership is very important. Air France KLM, we invited employee from Air France KLM. We invited Air Mexico. And we also, Laura-san, we invited some of the people from ACCJ for the workplace vaccination. And we also invited other people from community around our building. So again, COVID-19 was very challenging period, but also we turn around and to make this opportunity to be, again, getting closer to the community, getting closer to our partners. So I must say, this is one of the challenging time success story. And this really gave us opportunity to much stronger relationship with the community. And at the same time, our team donated food and beverage to the food bank, hospital, and as an organization across Japan. Now, again, going back to my point of community commitment, and that really gave us, again, that was an intention, but it's at the end of the day, that ended up and give us much stronger chain and a relationship with the community. So that is one of the success story throughout the challenging time we went through. And again, just like anybody else, keeping our employee motivated is very important factor for us. Again, employee is one of our core value, and we invest in our people who support our customer, who reward us with the loyalty and driving return for our shareholders. And we call this virtuous circle is what we call it, by the way. So I think even a difficult time, we try to do a lot of taking time to try to do a lot of trainings while everybody was busy on a normal time. So we take advantage of doing a lot of virtual trainings, and we ask every employees to revisit any of the things that you can either do it or that you can relearn anything about the Delta, anything about the aviation. So I think that was a very critical and important time for every employees to just kind of step back and look into what we have missed and few years, 5 years, 10 years back. And I think give us opportunity. Even myself, I'm very new, but it just give me opportunity to revisit what I'm missing. What are we missing? And at the end of the day, we realize that there is a lot of things that we could be more efficiently, we could do more effectively day-to-day business. And again, moving into the smaller office, smaller space, less luxury, but that would give everybody to learn how to work from home. And at the end of the day, that would save a lot of transportation fees. Because in Japan, culturally, we pay JR pass, whatever the pass, rail pass 6 months in advance. Instead, we try to kind of pay employee differently by like communication fees and everything else. So I think there is a lot of things that we went through become new opportunity, and we adapted something different as a new norm. So I must say there are challenges in a few things, but I think there is more opportunity than challenges if you review for last 18 to 24 months. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. And I hear over you've also summarized beautifully about really the message I heard was looking at it as not as a challenge, but we're looking at it as an opportunity. What can you do better using this time? And you really emphasized around partnership and relationship and serving the community. So I heard, the culture of Delta with really being that servant leader and serving the community and staying focused on your people first, community first, and that will lead into something good and better, going forward. So there's such a beautiful story and message there. So thank you.
And Nozomi-san, if we are to outsource these things to people, yes, a lot of vendors and of course our partner does really well here in Japan. But I think having our own employee, I think it's a little bit different because I think they do that from heart. And I think that's a very important part of having our own employee here in Japan. And that is a commitment to the community and commitment to the country.
Yes, the heart. Thank you. So Athar, if you can talk from a perspective from the headquarters and also Japan and beyond.
Service from the heart. So essentially, I think Victor-san outlined it beautifully, and we had a lot of challenges in the U.S. as well. COVID was not only expensive, but also took a toll on people in a big way, both on our people that work for Delta and with Delta and our customers as well. So I'll start with how it changed us as a company. Our biggest goal was how do we keep our people employed and safe? That was our biggest goal. So we took because of the U.S. laws, of course, everything is you have to work through the applicable laws of the country. In the U.S., we could do this. We could actually put it in place where people took pay cuts, right? Both at the merit level, so frontline people, not frontline people, but management employees, as well as officers. Everyone took a pay cut so that we could actually keep more of our people and not have to lay off anybody. Delta was one of 2 airlines in the United States that did not have one layoff throughout COVID. And COVID ended up costing us about $1 billion as a company. But it also made us look into ourselves as to what we needed to focus on. So one of the first things that came out of COVID was our global cleanliness department. So we forged these partnerships with companies that clean products. So I don't think I had ever seen an airport floor so clean as I started seeing during COVID. I mean, I could drop an olive on the floor of Atlanta airport and still pick it up and eat it. It would be very clean, right? That may not be the case now anymore because again, traffic is really back and it's heavily back. So that got created. We created an officer position in the company that would look after all of our facilities worldwide for clean, and clean is here to stay. So that's our commitment. We recognize as to what it did for us and the kind of customer feedback we received from it. So that is here to stay. That's not going away. And we have a global cleanliness department that looks after all of our global operations. The next thing that happened is our CEO, Ed Bastian, decided that he was tired of being the chief medical officer. So he went and sourced one of the best minds in communicable diseases from Mayo Clinic, and Dr. Henry Teng is our chief medical officer. So he was our consultant in the early days of COVID, and very soon Ed decided that he was the person that needed to come into Delta, and Dr. Teng now calls himself our sales officer because we've taken him on so many joint sales calls just so that he could share with all of our customers the measures that Delta has implemented and that could be best practices for our partners and customers. So those were some important steps that we took. We also ensured that whatever international routes we were operating, or even domestically, people were very clear about how they needed to prepare for travel through the airport. So our app was redesigned to ensure that it included all of the steps that a customer needed to take as they came to the airport. The masking process, your mask must be on during flight, just because we wanted to keep all our customers safe. We didn't want anyone to come out and say, I caught COVID on a Delta flight, right? That was a big step for us. We also had to ban in excess of about, I think, it was definitely over 1,000 people at one point, people that were violating all of our requests on the airplane of masking. We've had, COVID also took a lot of creative situations where we had to involve people in terms of law enforcement with flight disturbances. So we really took action in trying to ensure that our customers on our planes and our facilities remain safe. So that was very important to us. And we were very fortunate that the government actually supported us during COVID because that was not the case for our partners. So for example, in Latin America, Aeromexico had to go through a reorganization bankruptcy process filed in New York. Similarly, our partner across the Atlantic, Virgin Atlantic, literally had to reorganize itself and was literally at bare minimums for managing the airline. And now they're back in action and all services restored and good. But the US airlines were fortunate that they had government help in ensuring that it didn't cover everything, but it covered a good portion of assistance to the airline. So COVID, brought opportunities for us as well. So one of the things that we focused on was how do we use the downtime to get ready for when the traffic returns, and how do we serve our customers most effectively? And that's part of something that we call our reconstruction projects around the country. So whether you look at Seattle, right? Or you look at Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, LaGuardia, Atlanta itself in Terminal F, that's a $13 billion construction project that we are finishing this spring in all these airports. Some of them are opening as we speak. In fact, Seattle just had today gave a tour of the new international arrival facility to all the airlines and their customers. And we were certainly part of it in Seattle. So that's huge advantage. I mean, Seattle, we are going to have state-of-the-art terminal, a bridge. It's an air bridge where the airplanes go under it. You can process 10,000 people through that facility, 9 aircraft, essentially, nine aircraft at the same time. you can process in the Seattle arrival facility. So just we wanted to make sure that customers had the best experience at Delta Airlines, and that's what we did. So we used the opportunity. We made it a positive thing for our company. We lost employees. It took packages. We had almost 20,000 people leave Delta Airlines. So 40% of our people at this point are new colleagues. And so one of the most important actions for each one of us that have been at Delta for a little while is to how do we share the culture of Delta? Because that's one thing we have to uphold as our new colleagues step in. Even in our CEO's leadership, it's close to that number for new entrants in his leadership team. So it's a big change. COVID has really transformed lives, companies, and but we have to make the best of it. And we're coming out of it smiling and truly making the best of it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Athar. And I heard, again, really about instead of using the word challenge or seeing it as a challenge, really, maximizing this as an opportunity and doing everything that you can. So when you come out of it, just like you said, all this investment that you're making into the people, but also into facilities, and it's just amazing to hear that. And yeah, I feel like everyone who's on this webinar today probably wants to now go to Seattle and check this out. Like it sounds amazing, everything that you're doing. And it's also amazing to hear that 40% of the employees in Atlanta, I believe, is that the 40%?
Yes, that's true. That's correct. And also, a small portion around the world. Lots of people around the world are decided to either take early outs or early retirements or severance packages. Mm-hmm. And that was really in an effort to save other people, because people had ideas like, I want to go back to school, or I'd like to, I know I can go do a project, or I can take a sabbatical. And those people, they went out smiling because they said, this gives me an opportunity to do something I've been thinking of for a while.
Yes. And again, that's the same thing, but as an opportunity, and really seeing that. So that I can hear that theme really running through very clearly. So thank you. So we are getting closer to the end of the panel and then getting very, very close to the Q&A part. So for the listeners, for the attendees, I encourage you to put your questions in the chat box, and our team will keep an eye on that so we can ask at the Q&A portion of today's agenda. So I'm going to ask a leadership question, so as a closing question of the panel part. And the question is, well, actually, I wanted to ask two more questions. Let me ask two. So the question is, what is the key to being a good leader? And what are lessons that you've learned during this crisis that possibly supports or helps you to be a better leader? And especially, that's one question. And is there anything unique to being a good leader in Japan? So that would be the question. Athar, do you want to start that?
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Nozomi. And I think I'll address the first part, because certainly Victor-san can do a far better job about leadership in Japan.
Yeah.
So to be a good leader, I think you have to be an active listener, and leadership doesn't end with office hours. It's availability to your team and the people you lead, regardless of what time it is and what the situation is. So you're really a confidant, you really are support for them to be able to deal with life. And that's part of what COVID taught us, actually. So I think prior to COVID, most of us thought that it ends with the office. And so many people faced challenges in their personal lives that they couldn't keep quiet about it, whether it was elder care, right? Couldn't find the right nursing situation, couldn't find babysitting services, and now I have to be stuck at home. I cannot do what I'm supposed to be doing. So leaders have to be, you need to have empathy. You can't just be thinking how the work needs to be done. You need to figure out alternatives. If I have one of my colleagues stuck in a situation, how do I cover for them? How do I take care of them? How do I work them through that situation? So leadership is just not the books. Leadership is just not 7 principles. Mm-hmm. It's the whole package. So we seek that our people bring their whole self to work, right? So you cannot ask someone to bring their whole self to work and then not know them. So you have to know them to be able to appreciate their entire self at work.
Mm. Wow, that is so powerful. And I had the fortune to the opportunity to see you really modeling that when I had a meeting with you at the Delta headquarters, and saw how much interaction you had with your fellow colleagues, and just really knowing them, knowing who they are. And it was just absolutely amazing to see that interaction. So you really live this, by heart. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, it was so touching, and it was just amazing to see that. So Victor, tell us about leadership, and also, what is the key to being a good leader in Japan?
Sure. Thank you, Nozomi-san. And I think I talk about a lot of things about being leader, but again, here in Japan, not here in Japan, but I think any part of outside of the US, first of all, I think you really need to adapt to the culture. Perhaps Delta hired me because rather than having non-Japanese placed in the head of Japan, maybe me, again, understanding both culture perhaps makes sense, just to be a bit more comfortable dealing with the Japanese employees. And obviously, day to day, I think throughout the crisis, I learned that. And I kind of, in a way, credit myself in that sense that I think you can change the things day or two, but I think communication with your employee every single day, just stop by in any station, just to having casual conversation. I thought that was a very important factor especially when you're through the crisis. You may not capture 100% of trust from your employee, but just having a comfort with asking anything to me, or coming to me with any questions, any concerns. I think that's a very important part. And I hope I was provided that to my employee during the crisis. I mean, like I said, we moved from one office to another, to Korean Air office. And there's a lot of things needs to happen because we decided in September of 2020, and we completed entire move of office by the end of 2020, which is only giving us 90 days to move 100%. And throughout the move, some lady wants trash can with non-touchable. Sometimes you have to open the trash can to avoid some smelling around the room. But somebody wanted non-touched trash can so they could just throw the trash away into, without touching the trash can. It might be a small things, but just like a listen and act, I think we ask our people to change to the different trash can, and these small things are very important to perhaps to the employees. And again, not only extend to the customers, but listen and act is very important. Some people want a little bit of different cup so they can avoid themselves to get in, a little bit of finger burns from the hot coffee. And we listen and we act. We change the cup from one cup to another. So it could be a small things, but I think these small things, even from day-to-day operation, are very important. Listen and act is very important, not only to the customers, but also to the employee. And again, I believe my motto is to talk to the people and be visible. I think I learned that from hotel business. Yeah, I think for me, it's personally, I think good GM, general manager of the hotel, is always walk around, talking to the people, talking to the customer, and being visible is very important, not to the customer, not only to the customer, but only to the, our own people. So again, after the 27 years as a hotel business, I learned that being visible, communicate with the people every single day. I spend some time at the airport. I spend some time at the Narita hangars. I spend some time at different places in different part of Delta here in Japan. I think being a good leader and being visible And again, being visible, not mean just in Delta, but also being community, representing Delta, representing aviation. And that's a very important fact of being a good leader. And sometimes maybe, you know, I do too much oyaji gyagu, the Japanese jokes. And I'm a little bit worried about people going to human resources being gag harassment. But separately, I think having fun at the office is very important. And, you know, be vibe, you know, it just have to be fun to be in office. Sometimes job is not, you know, easy, but I think having fun, having smile at the office is very important too. And you as a leader have to do that. Otherwise, people will think, you know, a lot of concern. And be honest, be communicate. I think that's very important factor of being a great leader. It doesn't have to be here in Japan, but I think that's applied to anywhere in the world.
Yes, absolutely, Victor. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I can only imagine that your office is very, lot of energy, happy energy flowing around with you walking, with your smile and with your oyaji gyagu. I am sure that really lightens everyone up. And I heard about, you know, that visibility, and also from our conversations, I heard to add to what you shared, the message I heard also is about transparency, and especially during COVID, and building that trust day by day, you know, step by step. Was something that I also took away from you, from our conversations and from what you shared today. Thank you. So I did not leave much time for Q&A, so I apologize for everyone. And I really thank for the audience to sharing so many great questions. And because we have very limited time, and I know I want to honor and respect everyone's time, I'm going to choose one question. And this is a big question. So let's see how that goes. So the question is, how do you see the Japan market 10 years from now? What makes you excited? I guess the question is, Japan is a tourist destination, business destination, or a hub for Asia? And maybe because we're talking, you know, both of you being from Delta, how do you see Delta in 10 years from now, or the role possibly in the Japanese market? Victor, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. First and foremost, I think it's great to hear that you know, daily cap went up from 5,000 to 7,000 here in Japan. I don't know, a lot of you know here in the meeting today, but each airline is given seat cap per day or per flight. So, for instance, Delta only allowed to bring in 100 packs per flight. So, you know, sometime, you know, you make a reservation and, you know, it's look like fully booked, but once you get on the board, there's so many open seats. And maybe people wonder why it's fully booked. But obviously at this moment, we have a seat cap, particularly right now per flights, we have 100, it went up to 120, but it's good news for us to have 7,000 daily caps for all the airports in Japan. And you know, all the flights coming into Japan. So I think it's good news. And step by step, seat caps is going up. And obviously that is because of the capacity of quarantine officer at the airport is avoiding us to increase the cap. So I do respect that to protect the people in Japan, to limit the seat cap. So I think, let me talk about year two. I think it's going to take 2 more years, maybe perhaps 2024 will be, I would say, fully go back to new norm internationally. Now, US, as Athar mentioned, it's already back to about 90% of pre-COVID-19. But for Japan, or in any international destination, it's going to take almost another 1.5 to 2 years before, for aviation purposes, I think takes that much. So 10 years from now, I think it's a transforming time for anybody in the industry world. And I think it's going to be more and more digitalized services, digitalized purchasing, digitalized ticketing, everything's going to be digital. And I think one, it's a good news to be more convenient to the people, but I think it will be a challenge and opportunity for us, for the service sector, to learn how can we service more? How can we personalize the service with digital tools? So again, as we are moving into transforming into digitalization, I think one challenge and opportunity is how can we extend our loyalty service through the digital services? So I think 10 years, I would say it's going to be more efficient. Airplanes going to be more efficient. We already adjusted our chick flap plane Airbus 350-900 Neo. So equipment's going to be well advanced, more convenient, more efficient. But I think challenge and opportunity will be how can we extend our in-person services?
Thank you so much, Victor. Thank you.
Athar?
And yeah, and oh, go ahead, Athar.
I can just add one word,
Yeah.
touchless.
Touchless. That is.
Imagine me not touching my bag and it making it to Japan. Oh no, I don't know. But yes, we'll probably try. We'll do everything in our power, as Victor outlined. Digital. So how do you? And we're already trialing that in Atlanta right now, where you can actually drop your bag right at a machine with your boarding pass. So it's going to be literally, you won't need anybody to talk to you if you have your boarding pass and you go right through security.
Absolutely. Thank you. There was other questions about like EV planes. So it sounds like there'll be differences in equipment that might happen in 10 years. So right now you're talking about more of the logistical part, but also, the equipment will change. So there's so much to look forward to. And who knows, 10 years, it comes by pretty quickly. And there's so many changes that kind of beyond our imagination. So thank you. Well, we are at a minute. So thank you again. Thank you, Athar. Thank you, Victor, so much for your amazing shares, your insights, and your sharing your stories with us. I'm so grateful to have you here. I know how busy you are, especially with what is going on in the world today. There were some questions about Eastern Europe, which I didn't have the chance to ask you. But yes, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well then, so we have our closing remarks from our chairwoman of the Japan American Society of Georgia, Jessica Cork.
Thank you so much, Nozomi-san, and thank you, Victor and Athar, for your insight. And that was such a fascinating conversation. I also really learned a lot from you as far as what makes a great leader across different cultures. And thinking about Delta, I actually recently read a story. This is on Delta's website, but it was how a couple in Japan had such wonderful memories of traveling to Hawaii on Delta that they named their son Daruta. And they chose the two Japanese characters for shine and big to symbolize their son's bright global future. So I just thought that was such a great story that shows the joy that we can get traveling, especially on Delta. I've gotten an opportunity to experience that kind of joy many times. And honestly, where would the international community, especially here in Atlanta, be without Delta? Delta just makes it so convenient for us, especially with that direct flight right to Tokyo, for all of our Japanese colleagues and Japanese friends to get home to visit family, and easy for those of us who travel for business. We can just get right on that flight and get off on the other end and be at our destination. And I know that Delta's presence in Atlanta, especially with that direct flight, is a huge reason why so many Japanese businesses have decided to set up operations here in Georgia. And you always take care of us with such incredible service. I love your concept of the virtuous cycle. Actually, I work at YKK, and at YKK, we call that the cycle of goodness. And that just reminded me so much of a very similar culture. And I think that your culture is without a doubt the absolute secret to your success and in everything that you do. So thank you so much, Athar and Victor, and thank you, Delta Airlines, for taking such good care of us when we travel. We've all missed traveling so much, especially over the past 2 years. And I know I, for one, can't wait to get back on a Delta flight and to check out that new direct flight to Haneda. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.